because I have numerous dimensions, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fact that some dimensions may be applied in some conditions and other dimensions may be applied in other conditions, what I'm actually doing is I use a spreadsheet to identify my dimension criteria, okay? So I have a spreadsheet, and it is in here. Sorry for not having that prepped for you guys. It's in my Autodesk University here. So in here, is it here? Here it is. So I have this Excel spreadsheet that I've formatted in such a way to provide the necessary inputs to create a dimension, okay? And those inputs are, where do I want to start my dimension? Where do I want to end my dimension? What view do I want to apply that dimension to? What sheet? What's the orientation of that dimension? Is it vertical? Is it horizontal? Is it aligned? And then what's my offset? Meaning, based upon the location of the view, where am I placing this dimension on the sheet? So my X and Y on the sheet, where am I placing that particular dimension? The reason why I'm using a spreadsheet is now I don't have to hard code anything. If I want to add a dimension, all I need to do is give the dimension the requirements here. I can add or remove as many dimensions as I need to using the spreadsheet, and that way I don't have to change the code. I just have to change the required inputs, okay? So you can use an Excel spreadsheet, you can use a database, you can use an XML form if you want. There's a number of different sources you can use in order to identify where those dimensions are, what those dimension criteria might be. So the first thing for my dimensions I'm doing is I'm going out to my spreadsheet, I'm opening it up, and I'm gathering some information from it. So I'm looping through that spreadsheet to the different rows, and I'm feeding those values into placeholders that I've created here inside of my logic. So go to my Excel spreadsheet, go to this particular cell, A1, B1, C1, D1, gather that information, and then go ahead and use that information to create my linear dimension, okay? So I'm identifying what sheet, what view, what orientation, and all that ahead of time from my spreadsheet, and then I'm iterating through my loop in order to place that dimension. But before I do that, I need to do one other thing, and that's I need to find those points within my assembly. So if I go back over here to my assembly, you're going to notice that I have some in these. If I open up this subcomponent here, if I open this up, you're going to see that I have some points here. So I have an overall height work point. I also have in my payload fairing there, if I open that guy up, I also have the corresponding work point there for my overall height. So my first dimension is using overall height from my payload fairing, which is up here, and then the overall height point, which is down here at the bottom of the booster. And then from there, I can then place my dimension at the top and at the bottom, offset a particular value, and then as my model changes, as long as those points are aligned, as my model changes, this dimension is automatically going to update. Similarly to all these other dimensions here. So going into the logic, the code, that's all I'm doing is I'm iterating through my Excel spreadsheet. I'm finding the requirements or the inputs for those dimensions, and then I'm passing that information down to this routine in order to actually place the linear dimension.